Yeah. That actually reminds me about something again, which are still in Liberia. When he was arrested, before then, Halliburton, this American giant, was dying to come and exploit oil in Liberia. Yeah.
Hmm.
And they were offering Liberia 1 cent in every dollar. And Chastela kept shaking his head and said, no, I can't do that. When he was arrested before the trial, Halliburton sent his officers to come to see Chastela and said, look, if you agree to this deal, we will be able to impress on our government so that the trial will not come on. Chasnola looked on and said, no, I can't let you come and exploit the oil in Liberia for a song. Then Chasnola said in court, then the elevating guy said to him, then Mr. President, we can't help you. And so the trial has to start.
So they were using the trial to try to get more access to their oil reserves.
Exactly. And they were going to give Liberia 1%. Yeah.
1 cent for every 99. For
1 cent for
so,
every dollar. Yeah. I
so
said
they're
no.
going to give Liberia percent of their own oil reserves.
Yes, and that's how most African oil producers are getting it. Gambia also have oil. They wanted to come and exploit under President Yahya Jammeh. Jammeh had looked broadly at what other African countries were getting. So again, it was an American company that wanted to give them Gambia 5%. And the guy said, no, I will not agree to 5%. And they kept pushing him. And he told us, New African, in an interview, that the last time he told the American that if you ever step your feet on the soil of Gambia, I'm going to put you in jail. Yeah. So that's the kind of thing we are getting, 5%. And these guys have 95% for 30 years.
Wow. 30 years.
Yes.
See, this is the type of deals I don't want us to be making with the Chinese. We should have learned our lessons from the West, and I wish we were making better deals with the Chinese. But how can we ensure our leaders are making better deals? Now we have social media. Now we have all these things. If a deal was made and it's stupid, shouldn't we be able to just publicize this and be like, look how dumb this president was. Look at the deal he made. Is there a way we can hold them to account in some ways?
We can hold them to account if we know the details of the deals here. But most of the time, we don't know. Like in my own country.
Is it our legal rights to know the details of the deal?
Yes. What do they call them? Freedom of Information Act. Maybe you could get. But most of the time in Africa, they keep the deal at the presidency. So you never get to know it. But if we know it, then we can start activism around it.
So if there was Freedom of Information Act, then we can get access to this type of information. We can find out the deals people are making. And if someone makes a stupid deal, we can make fun of them online, at least.
Yes.
But in order for that to happen, we need to either get Freedom of Information Act or we need to find a way to know the details of that deal.
Yes.
You think we can know from the other side? Because usually they make these deals with other people. So if they're making deals with the West, making deals with the Chinese, do you think we can get to know from the Chinese side?
That is even more difficult to know. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Why would they showcase that when it's in their advantage? Like the Chinese or the East, they're not going to tell you this is the deal we're making and we're getting a bargain.
They're cheating more or less.
Yeah, I don't know in terms of legislation, laws, etc. That the Freedom Information Act actually exists in Africa.
In some African countries, we have, but even that is difficult to get information.
Yeah.
On things like this, they might tell you it's classified. I was going to say it's difficult to get information out of African governments.
Everything is digital now, right? And these deals that people are making, there's a digital record somewhere, usually, isn't there?
Yes, you need somebody to whistleblow.
You need someone to whistleblow.
Unless you want to hack into the government systems, you do not know, even though it's digital.
Yeah, unless someone or a group of people who are very well versed in the law can also just create some kind of petition that whatever deals are made in countries, there needs to be some level of the people involved. Yeah, that in itself would be something long term, right?
Yes.
Like it won't happen overnight. When people want to change the laws and the systems, it's not going to happen overnight. I don't even know if there's people looking into this already.
You know, in the UK, they have the 30-year rule where documents will come out. In Africa, I haven't ever seen anywhere in Africa that we get documents coming out after 30 years.
There was a very intellectual tech genius or maybe a group of tech anonymous communities, and their role was to hack to get these deals and publicize these deals online. That could be another way. Not saying that should happen, but I'm just saying that could be another way.
Yes. That could be
I was going to say there should be an ethical way to do it. If possible.
Sure. Sure, there should be ethical way, but then there should be fast ways too.
It's true, whistleblowing, right?
I was going to say that would be an illegal way of getting it, and when you are found out, they will come and get you.
Yeah.
Exactly. There's always repercussions, right? Yeah.
Yeah. For those people that do such things.
Yeah, for those people. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Cool.
Just clarifying.
Yeah, it's definitely for those people. Did you have any other questions, Samira, that you wanted to ask Baffour?
No, if anything, this just highlights a lot of the systemic issues, like worldwide, but in Africa, we've just highlighted how do the local residents, how can their influence change, and some of the limitations to that. And you made a really good point, Hamid, about the East really influencing. Because when I lived in Mozambique, I saw the influence of China in Mozambique whilst I was there in my 20s. And if anything is increasing, I think Turkey too, to a certain degree. I saw the influence of Turkey in Mozambique. So it is interesting because depending on the leadership, that really influences the country, right? And what is invested in the country. And if you don't know what deals are being made, how do you protect yourself?
How do you hold people to account?
Exactly.
I just don't get it. If we don't know what deals the leaders are striking, how are we going to hold them to account? How do we make sure it's in the benefit of the people? I don't know. Baffour, maybe you can help us out.
I think it's really big, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's a big dilemma.
Difficult to get the details of these deals.
Yeah, something has to change.
Just at the presidency, all that we see that the Chinese companies are mining here, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, the Chinese are big here in the mines.
I see. Okay.
Remember, the Americans have still not removed all the economic sanctions they put on Zimbabwe. The Chinese, the Eastern countries have taken advantage of that economic sanctions. While the Americans are blocking their companies from coming in, the Chinese have taken over. They have also helped in Zimbabwe in many ways with infrastructure projects, things like that. So sometimes Americans will impose sanctions. It's like cutting their nose to spite their face. A typical example is in South Sudan. Before you go, Hamid, South Sudan, the war that started after independence. Again, you have American dirty hands in it.
I remember when I finished uni, around that time was when South Sudan started becoming like this freshly independent country, and I was so excited.
2011, yes.
I was like, yo, this is going to be, finally, these people are going to get it right, because obviously they've seen the mistakes everybody else has made. So they're going to do something amazing. And then, boom, it wasn't. Why was the US involved? How were they involved?
I've interviewed the president of South Sudan twice, 2014, 2016. And he repeated it. We ran a big New African here. What happened was that before South Sudan independence, we had Big Sudan, and South Sudan was part of Big Sudan. And the oil in Sudan, most of it is in the south. And the Americans were angry at the president of Sudan because Osama bin Laden was once based there. So they imposed sanctions on Sudan. So when South Sudan was becoming independent, negotiating, President Salva Kiir, who is the now president of South Sudan, told me that at the time it was ExxonMobil, the American company, that was prospecting for oil in South Sudan. And because the American government did not had an issue with the president of Sudan, Khartoum, they told ExxonMobil to quit. ExxonMobil quit and allow the Chinese to come in. The president told me that the blocks where Exxon was prospecting was empty, the blocks where ExxonMobil was doing. At the time, South Sudan was not independent yet. So America had to go through Khartoum. And they said, no, we wait after independence, we know what to do. So the Americans did not come. And South Sudan, the Chinese and the Malaysians come in and occupy the place. So after independence, there was no more room for the Americans. And they did not like that. So to get their way in, they wanted Salva Kiir to be overthrown. So the Americans cut deals with the vice president here. So 2013, the war broke out and they were supporting him. So I went to South Sudan, interviewed the president. He told me, I came back to London, reported it big in New African. I went again in 2016 to report, and he repeated the same thing. The Americans have never, ever denied or confirmed it.
So basically, the US was supporting the opposition in that civil war just so they can
Exactly.
get access to the oil reserves that were in
Yes.
South Sudan.
Yes. That's what the president told me.
And previously, the people who had access to those oil reserves were the Chinese and the Malaysians, you said.
No, previously it was the Americans. So when they pull out, Exxon pull out, and ExxonMobil, Sudan had to find another investors. And the Chinese came and occupied the place, and the Malaysians.
Yeah. So the Chinese and the Malaysians occupied the gap that America left, but because they
Yes.
weren't backing, they decided we're going to just spark a civil war to get back in.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
That is why the South Sudan war never ends here. They will be quiet, and then it flares up again, quiet, and flares up again.
Do you know what's happening in Sudan, actually?
I haven't followed the current events in Sudan, this war between the armies, which I find quite amazing. Yeah? How they have continued to kill and destroy the country like that.
Do you know if it's affecting South Sudan as well?
There have been refugees that have come from north to south since years. But apart from that, politically, the South is trying to mind its own business. And amazingly, South Sudan too was left undeveloped by the British and the Egyptians who ruled in Sudan at the time. And then after Sudan independence, the South was kept very backward, to the point that I remember when I went there in 2016, the only piece of tarred road in South Sudan, huge country like that, covered 120 miles from Juba to the Uganda border. And that road was even built as a gift by the Americans who gave them for free. And the contractor who did that road did not do edgings at the side of the road. At the side of the road, you have to do edgings so that when the tide goes over, they just cut it like this. And so if you not careful, go to the edge, you fell on it. Cars were falling on their side. That is the only tide road that was in that country, 120 miles.
Did the Americans succeed in their goal then with sparking that civil war to get access to the oil reserves?
No, they haven't succeeded yet because Salva Kiir is still president. And was it 2 weeks ago, I found that they have again postponed the elections to 2026 or something. So he's still there. The Americans wanted him out, but the guy is still there.
I see. Interesting.
Yeah.
There's so much I don't know, which is good. This is why I'm doing this podcast, because there's so much I'm learning. This is a very knowledgeable episode, honestly. I feel like I could talk to you for many more hours and learn a whole lot more.